I think the first thing that I did was I had to look at it. I think with sexual abuse and trafficking, um, it's just, especially when it happens when you're so young, it's so hard to actually come to terms with what has really happened. And I think if you don't know what your pain is, it's hard to transform it. you know? So I think looking at the pain is the first thing. And I realized that not looking at it was costing me a lot. A lot. It was costing me my life, my freedom, my joy, my health, everything. And not just for me, but also for future generations of children. And so that was the first thing, was like the cost. It's a heavy cost. And I
Yeah.
think at certain point you get tired of it. You're like, I'm over this. um, but also for me personally, and I know this doesn't happen for everybody, or maybe it does, but for me personally, my body is extremely chatty. Like, she will let me know if there's something that she wants me to look at. And until I look at it, I will be in literal physical pain. So it came to a point where I couldn't really ignore it. And a lot of times, because it is hard and, it doesn't really, I think over time it gets easier. But when you first start peeling back the layers, I feel like for me it was harder before it got um easier, before the pain like stung less. And so yeah, I think, in those earlier days, my body wouldn't let me just sort of open one page of the book and then put it down and be like, "Okay, I'm good." She would never do that, and so I just basically had to listen, and I'm grateful for that, and now I'm working on just being grateful for my body's brilliance,
Yeah.
because she knew a lot that I didn't, and I had to really be like, "Okay, like, what do you know?" It's so wild, like, literally, like, wild and beautiful and raw. Like, I can't say that I went like I used to be, in college, I majored in human biology, and I'd have to go to the chemistry lab, and it's nothing like, I mean, it's kind of like if you were to mix these chemicals and then there was this, like, crazy explosion, you really didn't know what you were doing, but, like, in the end, shit happened. Like, that's kind of what it was. That's kind of what it was like. It wasn't like planned and like, oh, let me get a little bit of tears over here and then like a little bit of like coaching and then a little bit of yoga and like, and then it's going to magically change. It was really just a consistent process of like persevering, and it was wildly feminine. Like, I will say that. My husband can attest to
Mm.
it. He's seen it all. It was wildly feminine, like, in the sense of surrendering to my emotions,
Okay. Okay.
and feeling them. And I don't I think everyone has their own way of alchemizing. For me, it was deeply emotional. So it was, like, a lot of, like, just ugly stuff, that maybe people don't wanna talk about, but I know for me, there's a book, about the Aboriginal people of Australia and how they used to, deal with pain, and, in the book, it describes how they would do it, and one of the things they would do is they would go and tie themselves to a tree and just, like, let it out away from the community, so, like, in private, but just, like, let it out, like, scream, cry, bang your head against the tree, do whatever it is you need to do to get it
Yeah.
out. And I would say my process looked more like that than anything written in a book
Mm.
or anything that anyone, like, told me, like, "Oh, yeah, this is gonna work," because there was no script. I didn't know what was gonna work. But that's majority of the work I did was just that feeling.
Do you still do that
Do you
kind of
still
work
do
now?
that kind of work now? I do, but it actually is cool because I thought it was gonna go on forever. Like, when you're in it and you feel like the anger, the rage, the hurt, the grief, like, it really feels like I think the reason so many people avoid it is because they think it's never gonna end, and also because it feels like you're dying.
Yeah. I think a
Because, like, a
part of
part
you
of you
does
is
die.
I think a part of you does die. Yeah, it does. It's like and then if you think about it, any type of abuse is sort of like a near-death
Yeah.
experience, like, in your body, you know, because 'Cause you're uh, like, I'm scared, this is terrifying. So anyways, I do still feel yes, but, um, I'm pleasantly surprised to find that I don't need to spend that as much time as I did in the peak of it, which was definitely, like, years. It wasn't, like, days or months. But yeah, it's different now, but, who knows what's around the corner, you never know. But when I need to feel, yeah, I feel.
It's beautiful. Like,
So, can I ask you a question about
of
that?
course.
So how long like, you said you're not normally, like you don't normally express your rage. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I don't really normally get
Yeah, I don't
that
really normally get that
angry or rageful. Like, things just kind of,
angry or rageful, like, yeah.
things just kind of, like, yeah.
So, like, once you started, did you feel like there was, like, a moment where you kind of like something shifted and you were able to access something that was deeper that was there? Like, did you get into it or did you sort of just go through it and be like, "Okay, that was cool." But, like, did you realize, like, "Oh, like, there is stuff in here and,
Yeah,
this is
exactly
awesome
that.
that I hear you. I hear you. It's, the practicalities of it in our society today are not that easy.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, and so I only talk about that because I think for people who might feel like, "Oh yeah, I wanna feel my emotions, but, like, where do I go?" Like, I'm a mom of 4 and I work and so it's, I once went into my car and drove to a nearby park or forest. I feel like being near in nature is the most, soothing and protective place to be for such things. But yeah, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that story with me. Um, it's almost like I was living 2 lives. I think I didn't try to compartmentalize it or multiple, maybe not even 2, but like multiple, because I was still coaching clients. I was still, showing up as we have a dog. I was still showing up as a dog mom, and as a partner and as a friend and doing other things. And so yeah, I mean, it was like living many lives, and I had to sort of learn that early on that not everybody slash maybe nobody was going to understand this. And I think that's so important. It was so important for me because it just sort of allowed me to go about my business and my work without having to necessarily turn around and be like, hey, like this is what I'm going through. And people being like, on the spectrum of whatever, like confused or, in denial of my experience to very supportive. Um, so yeah, it was sort of like a natural compartmentalization, but I think in a healthy way of just like there's different lanes and different um paths in life, and some paths we share with others and some paths are more intimate. And of course, my partner knew what was going on, but he still needed to live his life,
Yeah.
and attend to his things. And the truth is, this wasn't his, it was mine. And so I learned to sort of take ownership of it in that way of like, this is mine to do, and I'll do it. And when I need support, I'll ask. Well, um, so I started my coaching business after I was diagnosed with and cured from stage 4 cancer. And so I'd already started the work. It was just sort of a natural progression of it, and I couldn't really um consciously control like when my memories were coming back from childhood. They would just like come in waves. And in my dreams, in my waking moments, in my body, and it was just like a divine orchestration. So, it was sort of like I was already on this journey, but, like, the work and the, layers just went deeper and deeper and deeper until, like, I got to what I feel like was definitely a lot of the roots. So yeah, it wasn't like I was like, "Can I have the memories back, please?" They just started coming.
So did you not remember the abuse?
I had memories come back, but I was so disassociated in my 20s, um, and in my teenage years, and I was still living with a lot of my abusers, so because they were, like, very close family members,
Mm.
or seeing them a lot, and there were so many. And so I think so yeah, I would say I had a lot of inklings, but at the same time, I had no idea, when I was more disassociated, and it was absolutely a protection mechanism.
Yeah.
Um, and I think when I started to sort of drift away from my family in very, serious ways, that's sort of when the memories started coming in full force, I think, because probably the orchestration of it all in my body, we knew that, it's okay now. You can look at this and sort of, you know, actually look at it. You have a space now. So, yeah.
That's intense. So, yeah, I mean, it's amazing. You are such a a testament
Intense.
to survival. You are in complete
So I want to
remission.
touch a little bit on your cancer because
And how did you do that?
you are in complete remission. And how did you do that?
Well, I I did the traditional chemo therapy thing. Um I did not want to do that. A part of me, I'll say, did not want to do that. Another part of me was very like shocked by the diagnosis and just like, okay, like let's just do whatever we can. Um So, yeah, I did the traditional chemo, but what was interesting is that my cancer went away within a few months, like very few chemo treatments. It was supposed to be 6 months of chemo, and my cancer went away very quickly, and everybody was confused about it, and nobody believed it. And so they made me do the rest of chemo because they were like, "There's no way this is actually possible." And it turns out it actually was possible. Like, it never came back. It was gone. And so I like to say, because I truly felt it when it was gone, and I like to say that, what I believe is that it came for a reason, and I listened to it, and I understood it, and when I understood the gravity of, like, the message it was bringing me, it it left, because there was no need for it to be screaming at me anymore. So,
And
that's sort of how I
I have I
explain it.
you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but do you feel
I have
that your cancer was
felt
related to
that your
emotion
cancer
that
was
you were
related
storing in your body?
to
And as you
emotions that
started
you were
clearing
storing
those
in your
out,
body.
like,
And
start
as you
again.
started clearing those out, like, start again.
Exactly.
Wow. So, how do you help people today? I want to shine a light on who you are and how you
So
are transforming the world.
how do you help people today? I want to shine a light on who you are and how you are transforming the world.
Um, well, let's see. The, um I right now, I'm an authenticity coach and an intuitive healer, and I help my clients just live their most authentic lives, whatever, brings them fulfillment and joy. And as we know, it's a path full of twists and turns and revelations and um healing and bringing to life what each of my clients really believes is possible. and their unique vision or their painting of what they think a beautiful life can be. And so, yeah, it's just I support people to create their beautiful lives, and it's the best.
So what does authenticity mean to you?
So, what does authenticity mean to you?
I know it's a word that's thrown around and stuff. Um, I actually started using it like this year. I would call myself like a general life coach, before. And I started using it this year because I was in a session, like a professional development sort of thing. And I was describing to somebody like what I did, and I kept using the word like authentic. And they were like, "Well, it sounds like you're like an authenticity coach." And I was like, "Wow, that sounds so cool." And I was like, that's not something I've ever heard of before. I was like, "Let's do it." I just like it because it sort of gets that conversation started of like what is authentic. But to me, it's just being how you are, you know. It's just there's a layer of um it's kind of like nature. It's like a flower is how it is. It doesn't like put on a face, or it doesn't put on a show. Like a squash is a squash. It's like it's not going to try to be a carrot. So, it's like that for me. And I think, just the conversation around authenticity, it gives others the permission to feel like they can start to unearth like who am I really, which is like a deeper philosophical question, but also like an embodied thing of like how do I want to be in this world. So yeah, to me it's just be how you be.
And how does one start to tap into their authenticity, do you think?
And how does one start to tap into?
you know I know some people say like it's not useful to know like what you don't want or what doesn't resonate, but I actually think it's extremely useful to understand who we are not, what doesn't sit well with us, what makes you angry, like that angry. It's so important because what pisses us off is also tells us what we care about, what we want to protect, what we really believe in. And to me, another word for that is sort of like values, but values feels like something you write down on paper, whereas this is more like, it's how you show up. But they're tied. And so, yeah, I think understanding what doesn't sit well with you and what does, what environments bring out the version of you that you're most proud of and you feel free, and what environments make you feel you know, like you have like some sort of like weird rash or something that's about to start showing up. Like it's just so clear when we actually pay attention. So I think just starting to pay attention to like how you feel in different environments and different types of people, different types of things, getting curious. These are good ingredients for the soup.
So, and you're also an intuitive coach.
Intuitive coach.
So what does that mean for people who don't?
What is that?
I say I'm an intuitive healer because honestly, I haven't really thought that one through as much. There's just no other way to describe my more intuitive offerings. There are. I mean, people call themselves mediums, psychics. Um, there's, people who work with herbs. I kind of do all of that.
Okay.
So, um, I like intuitive healer because intuition is something like authenticity. It's like a pillar
Mm.
of my work. And
Mm.
I think it's because at my core, I really believe that like everybody, every soul knows what it needs to thrive and to heal. And so to me, intuition is that soul or spirit or your inherent you, if you were to take away your body, your inherent you, like, that has messages. That has desires. That thing has a direction. You might not always know, like, where is this taking me? But, like, it has a stamp on the world. And so our intuition is our connection to that. And so I just love it because, I talk about ancient times a lot because I think a lot of the teachings that I do now, they're connected to, like, a lot of the teachings of our ancestors. And um intuition is just like, how do we use our senses? Like our hair. I don't know. We have senses. Like, there's times when you get chills, right? There's times when you walk into a home and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is my future home." Or you see this person, you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is the father of my children." All of which have basically happened to me at one point or another. And, you know, it's like we have these gifts that, like God or the universe or our parents or whatever, however you want to think about it, gave us, like our ability to sense, just like nature, just like animals. We have this ability too. And so intuition is just like that practice of sensing the truth, the truth. And I'll this is the last thing I'll say because I know I talked a lot about intuition, but I'm such a proponent of it because it's gives us agency. Like, it means that nobody can know what's best for you except for you.
Yeah.
And so even in the coaching relationship, I love, like, taking a backseat because it's like people know. They might be confused sometimes or get lost, but that's a part of the process to getting found. So, yeah, intuition.
How
And
do you
it
build that
happens to
trust?
you between yourself and your
How do you
intuition.
build that trust between yourself and your intuition?
Mm, great question. Trial and error. Um, so you follow it and you see what happens. um, but also I feel like I have a better answer to that. Not that that first answer was wrong. Um, let me see. Well, I think I'll share this. I think this might be helpful. So I had followed my intuition a lot in my life before realizing that's what I was doing. When I finally learned about the word intuition, I was like 29 and nobody had ever talked to me like, "Oh, you're this, intuition, this, that." I had no idea. And it was an acupuncturist who told me about it. And she looked me directly in the eye and she said, "You need to follow your intuition even more." And I looked back at her and I just started crying. Um, and I had this like visceral reaction. Um, and I told her, like, I'm just like terrified um to follow my intuition. And this was before I had my memories back and had sort of accepted what had really happened. And I think part of what can be scary about trusting ourselves and trusting what we're sensing is that there are sometimes painful, hard things that come with that. Um, and it intuition is also about the subtle. It's about the obvious, but it's also about the subtle realms. We might find ourselves in someone's company and our intuition's like, "No, you need to never talk to this person again." And we don't understand. We're like, "But why?" Um, and so yeah, I kind of just share that because it's like I know it can be scary to start to trust it because there can be consequences, real consequences of that. Um, but I think just little by little, step by step, it's just trial and error and, sort of embracing the wild. That's why I said it's like a wild path. There's no guarantees, but that's how we learn. And so just sort of embracing the messiness of it and just taking one step at a time. And if you want, you can start with little things. You don't have to start with like life altering decisions or whatnot, just starting little nudges or, oh, I want to go to this place to eat, or I want to go dance at this place, or I want to go travel to this place, or, whatever it is. Or even I love to do it in conversations with people because you just never know. Like you might want to ask somebody like just a question out of nowhere, or share a story about something that you would never think otherwise, but then they're like, "Oh, yeah, like that." It really resonates or it really brings you somewhere. So there's a lot of little fun ways to try it. Try working with it with foods. A lot of people do that, like intuitive eating and seeing how your body responds. Can even try talking to the plants and a lot of times, like the elements. And if you're like in the forest or in nature, sometimes the wind will talk back to you, and it's such a safe place to, or the fire, such a safe place to play around and start just listening more.
So as my final actually, I have 2 more
So as
questions.
my final, actually, I have two more
So,
questions.
Okay.
what would
So
you recommend somebody do now? They're
what would you
feeling really
recommend somebody
inspired
do
and they
now? They're
want
feeling
to
really
embrace
inspired and they want to
what they've heard
embrace
here today. What would you
what
recommend they
they've
do?
heard here today. What would you recommend?
Wow. I'm laughing because every case is different and I'm such a like relativist in that way. But if I were to have one action step, I would say I have two. One is you can pick. You can either go into nature and just listen, just sort of listen to your own thoughts, talk out loud to yourself, just sort of have those conversations that you want to have internally in whatever way feels right, and listen and, connect with the environment and just notice what's up. And then the second action step is if you're not feeling that one, um, just writing, just grabbing a pen and just letting it out, like whatever it is. It could be the craziest thing. Like maybe the prompt is, what does my intuition want to tell me today? So let's see.
That's beautiful.
That's beautiful.
Is there anything
Is there
that you
anything
have on your
that
heart that you
you
wanna
have on your
share that I
heart
haven't
that you want
asked
to
you
share that
about?
I haven't asked you about?
Well, there's one thing. It's quite deep. But it's something that I was reflecting on earlier and I thought it was really interesting. um I was thinking about our personal traumas and how they're sort of a reflection of the collective state of humanity and what we've all built here on earth together. And I just think it's really like that connection between the personal and the collective is just something that's been really like emotionally like it's just been striking a chord within me these days. So I guess it's sort of just like a message and a question of what um what are we noticing our own traumas are about, and where do we see that as a collective hurt? And of course, I fully believe that as we heal individually and together, that um we have the capacity to consider creating a humanity that is more whatever we want it to be, more beautiful, more peaceful, more kind, whatever it is, insert good quality. um, so yeah, that's it.
So where can people find you?
So where can people find you?
My website, which is just my name, poojabakhai.com. I'm on Instagram. I was off of it for 30 years, but you know, got internet. We're living in the internet times, so I am now on Instagram and Facebook and what is the other one? LinkedIn. Um, and it's just my new business name. I recently changed it, but it's Lakshmi Sacred Arts. So you can find me on there too, and I'd love to say hello.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us
It's
and
beautiful.
sharing your
Thank you so
story
much for
today.
being with us.
Yeah, thanks, Natasha.